Hi, David here. In this video, I want to introduce you to everything that's new in Scalar 3 in terms of features and functions. Now that we've got a bunch of tutorial videos, so this is not a tutorial video, but for Scalar 2 users, it's a great place to start. Let's take us through some of the new features and functions in Scalar 3. So it should look instantly familiar to Scalar users. A, B, and C, they're the sections. The main thing we've got here now is we've put everything within 3 pages. The first is the browse page, where you browse for chord sets, you browse for scales, etc., etc. We've also got a create tab, which features our circular fifths, our modulation pages, same as we had in Scalar 2, but now we've got a bunch of new pages. We'll go through them in a second. And we've got our arrange page, where we tend to do a lot of our work, load our instruments, and create multiple tracks. Let's stick to the browse page for now. Okay, so we can browse for scales and we can browse for chords. Let's just go straight into common progressions. Let's go uncommon progressions, a new category in Scalar 3. Let's get colored, and we can select all our chords there and we can drag them straight down into our section C. Now, these chords can be any length and any order and can go on for as long as you want. There are no restrictions. We'll get to that later. A few changes in the internal sounds. I'm just going to bind this area. I'm going to open up the sound editor for the felt piano. And now we're able to add delays, change the amp envelope, move the filter, and add some reverb too. It's really cool, a little bit more flexibility on the sounds. They do sound better. But of course, the big feature of Scalar 3 is that you can load any third-party instrument. This is our browse page. We're going to have a look at this a little bit later, but manufacturers, instruments, internal sounds, our favorites, you can favorite anything, or you can go to all and look for your favorite plugin, and there you go. I'm going to go to favorites. I'm going to pull up my Arturia CS80 4V, and there she is. Really nice to be able to instantly hear those lovely scalar chords straight into your instrument of choice. Now, I just want to point out that by default, when you're loading it within a DAW, and you can use Scalar 3 and load it as a standalone, which works in exactly the same way, apart from this one feature, which in a DAW, it's automatically syncing to the tempo and time of your DAW. So you hit play on your DAW, and Scalar plays along. Now, more on this later, but if I was to go to the arrange page and move my DAW into a position, you see Scalar just follows along. Same with the tempo, same with the time signatures, etc., etc. You can actually, let's go back to the browse page, you can actually just right-click and deselect DAW Sync, or do that in the menu. And now it won't sync to the DAW, and you can just use Scalar 3 exactly as you use Scalar 2. In fact, you can completely ignore the arrange page. If I pull up these MIDI trigger notes, I'm outside of DAW Sync, and I just hit play, and you can see that it'll just trigger those notes. Few new functions. You can just drag the chords straight in. More on dragging and dropping later. There's lots more to that. If you get a MIDI panic, you can just click the MIDI panic button up here, and you can create a new session just by right-clicking and clicking new session, or you can actually go to the templates, or the presets, I should say, and just click new session, and you're straight into a new track. Browsing for chord sets was always fairly cool in Scalar 2, but I love the way it works now. Firstly, you've got these resizable panels. That's the first thing to note. And you can zoom and scroll according to the scroll bars and double click to get it back to exactly as you wanted. So you can just look that way, or you can come into the all scales browser. I love this function. So you can say, give me everything in C, and you can start tagging, and it'll just start reducing these scales. Let's say I come out of those tags, I clear all filters, and I can also use it this way. I can say, oh, what scales feature the notes of C, D sharp, F, and G sharp, and it'll start breaking them down. You'll notice that because I selected C first, it's chosen that as the root key and it's showing me all the Cs. But actually, if I click it again, now it's just going to show me all the scales that feature those 4 notes. It's a really intuitive and great way to browse for scales. Of course, you can just come in the old school way and go A minor, and there you go. Whilst we're here, I want to have a look at some of the other browse categories. So we've got common progressions, uncommon progressions, lots of new genres for you to look for, so much content, great new artist content from some really world famous artists, which is fantastic. We've also got a moods category. So you go to atmospheric, or beautiful, or calm, and it'll just give you the right chord sets that fit. It's really cool. We've got a user folder. You can import chord sets from Scalar 2 or any XML files from anywhere. You can just drag them in through your native DAW and they just pop up straight here, which is a really cool way to just start finding all your old chord sets and loading chord sets. And we've also got a favoriting system, of course. As you notice, there's favorites everywhere. So here I've got some favorites. So I'm going to load one up and I'm going to choose simple one. I'm going to double click here to reset the browser, and I'm going to come into the felt piano, and I'm going to choose a internal instrument. I might go to my favorites and pull up Contact. I'm going to load the lovely Noir, and I'll choose Open and Reach. Okay, so yeah, there's my chords featuring that Contact instrument. You can look for alternatives of these diatonic by clicking the colors icon, and that brings up the colors browser. We'll look at the colors page in a second. Those are fantastic because you can pull up voicings, variations, substitutions, inversions. We've got lots of new stuff which I'll show you in the colors page. So, you know, I could go 7th. Okay, so I'm just going to drag these chords from my simple one chord progression. And now I want to have a look at the global browser section. First thing to notice is, of course, we've got all the usual guitar features. Tristan will do a tutorial on that, our resident guitarist. But I'm going to stick to the keyboard view. And I'm also just going to point out that you can actually just collapse it all, which gives you more room, which is really cool when you're working in the arrange page. But let's come back to keyboard view. Let's have a look at some of the global functions. We've got our standard voice grouping that we've always had. You've got a keys lock function. I'm going to have a look at this very quickly now, okay? Tristan has done a great tutorial on it. The first thing I want to point out that chord notes, chord extensions, and chord scales now lock the chords to the black keys, which enables you, chord scales is a whole new mode, which enables you to play the black keys and have the whole white key area, which is really cool. And what that was doing is that chord scales adapts the white keys to the scale of the chord you're playing. It's really easy to come up with melodies. Check out our devoted keys lock tutorial for that. I'm going to turn off keys lock. I'm going to have a look at the performance menu. So this is where we load our what we call motions. Okay, they are the old articulations and expressions from Scalar 2. There's a lot of new lovely content. Had some really amazing musicians come in. Very thankful for taking the time to come in. And I just want to take you through a few of them. Firstly, in the browser, you can now audition and see the notes of the performances. If you want to load something, click on the name or double click on the actual performance. We can just play those beautiful performances. Yeah, they're really lovely, and you can just flick through them. Or well, let's go to another category. Let's go jazz soft. They're really lovely. Yeah, there's just so much new content. I could spend an hour going through it, but if we come into phrases, we've got emotive phrases, which are absolutely lovely. Of course, you can just flick through them right here. Yeah, they're absolutely gorgeous. I encourage you to go through them. A bunch of jazz things by an accomplished jazz musician. They are really cool. Yeah, we've got nice phrases. We've got lovely triplet feels. We've got ostinato phrases. And we've even got jazz colors. It's really nice to have the quantization function here. And now if I move to 16ths, our musicians have played things expressively. And sometimes you can hear they're not right on with the metronome, which is nice. But if I do want them on, I just choose the quantize option, put it to 100%. And now I've got a depth control. I can say, okay, how about we go halfway between where they played it and where we want it on the 16th. Okay, I want to have a look at the Create page. Now, the Create page is where you do all your harmonic creation, if you like. It's a great place to look for chord alternatives. We've got all the usual circular fifths page, the modulation page, the progression, secondary scale, modal interchange, mediance, and Near-Harmony, and they work exactly the same way as Scalar 2. Check out the tutorials either for Scalar 2 or the new ones on our channel. I want to have a look at Explore, Colors, and Sketch. I'm going to have a look at colors. I love this page. This page kind of automatically detects the current scale that you're in. Here, E flat major, and then says, okay, here's some variations for those diatonic chords based upon whatever you pull up. So it's like in Scalar 2, we had the drop-down menus with voicings and substitutions. Well, we've got that here now, but you can choose whatever you want. So just in essence, okay, number 1 chord is E flat major of this scale. Some variation. So it's a real nice way to compare things. So you can say, oh, extensions, sevenths. Okay, let's go to extensions and let's hear sevenths versus ninths. Or I like my voicings. I'd like to hear voicing 2 versus voicing 7. We've got some really cool functions too. So you'll notice that this is using a C major. C minor is actually part of the E flat major scale. So I could come into inversions will show me the inversions, the substitutions. This is all new. I could do parallel, and straight away that's going to show me my C major there. Another really cool feature which loads of people have wanted is the negative harmony. So now you can see the negative harmony equivalent chords to the chords in your scale. It's a really cool way to get some lovely variations. Yeah. There's lots to find, and basically you can just call up the lanes however you want, or of course you can just move through them here, which is really, really cool. I love the colors page. It's a great way of finding alternatives to the chords that you've got. Let's go to the Explore page. Much has already been shown about the Explore page in the pre-release reveals, plus we've got an in-depth tutorial covered in our tutorials done by Tristan. But yeah, it's a really cool place to just find chords belonging to what I call a chord constellation or a harmonic universe. The whole premise is you click a chord and the inner circle chords are the safest. Left-hand side is darker, right-hand side is lighter, and the further away, the darker the chords get, the more incompatible they are. But everything just seems to work, so you can stick to compatible chords or go further away. More in the tutorial, but for now I'm going to pull up Synthwave. I'm going to bind it, and that's really cool, is you can bind this area and just play through the chords. Yeah, fantastic. They just sound fantastic. My progression here was, if I just play through it, was a little bit darker. So actually I'm going to come into this profile and I'm going to pull up darker chords. That's cool. That works. They certainly sound darker. Think it'll fit my progression. Because I'm in E flat major, this is responding dynamically to the scale of the chord. I'm actually just going to click the lock, and the lock is going to lock it to my current chords. Cool. So let's use that C minor instead of my C major. We've also got the sketch page. I want to talk about this page quickly because it's a replacement for the pad view in Scalar 2. Here you can just move and drag chords into multiple lanes and experiment. We've also got a suggest mode, which just effectively is a little bit different to the traditional suggest mode that we had in Scalar 2. But this one just fills the chords based on your scale, and if you don't have a scale, it does it randomly, which is really fantastic. And now you get multiple lanes. Of really usable chord progressions. It's absolutely fantastic. But the other thing you can do is you can go anywhere. So let's say we come back to colors and say, oh, I'd like to hear these, have these negative harmony chords. I quite like them. And I'd like them to move it to sketch chord, sketch progression 1. And then there it is. And then of course I can call this whatever I want. You know, if I was building it this way, I could call it verse, and there's my chords. The other excellent thing about this page is you can call up individual motions for each individual lane. So I could say, okay, let's have an up, and then I can just play through. Yep, and it plays like that. So you can actually automate the changing of these lanes, and for live performance you can have different motions on different progressions, and it makes this a really powerful, flexible sketching or live performance tool. The arrange page works like everything else. Just a quick note is that you can use the cycle locators here, and outside of DAW Sync it will cycle, but also internally as part of DAW Sync it will cycle too, which is really cool because no matter where you are, it's basically saying, I don't want to have to create an entire arrangement. I just want a chord progression made up of 8 chords, and I want to cycle around that and just allow it to follow the DAW. So really flexible like that. Okay, so the main thing here is you can add multiple lanes and put on multiple articulations, expressions, and so forth. So let's say I'm going to pull up an expression, and let's go performances. We'll go common, basic, and performance 6. Now that's playing the felt piano there. You can actually copy instruments and effects across, which is really, really cool. I love that. Now there's a bit of a jump in that voicing there, so I'm going to grab all the chords and I'm going to pull up the MIDI editor, and I can see all the chords here. I could either auto voice lead or I can make some adjustments myself. I'll just select both of these notes and delete them. And just to make sure, I'm going to auto voice lead, and that's going to put all the chords as close together or as well voice led as possible. Yeah, it's really nice and flexible. Everything is following along. Any track that you put on is going to follow along. So I'm going to come back to the mixer, and I'm going to pull up, instead of the CS84V, I'm going to look for our favorite Carbon Electra. I'm going to pull up Leads Triad Me. Okay, so now that we're listening to the Performance 6 going through Carbon Electra, I can do all kinds of things. I can move the octaves up or down. I can change the inversions. Really cool. I mean, to be able to see everything being moved live is just so fantastic. More on this later, okay? But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to reset that, and I'm going to come in and say, actually play it at double time. So I just want to point out a couple of new articulations. One is a chord follow track. Now, the point of the chord follow track is very easy, is that you can send the same chords out to another channel. The great thing about the chord follow track is that it follows the chords, but you can actually apply these modifiers to it too. So for example, it's following the chords, but I can split these clips. You can split any clips, and you can put any different modifiers or any different performance on each one. And I'm going to say, okay, just as a bit of an uplift, can you make these ones go, bring it up an inversion. Okay, I think I'm struggling with the double suspended chord, so I'm going to click on my E flat suspended second, and you can see as I move it, the chord is updating. So it gives me a real great visual feedback as to the chord that I want, which is an E flat major. I'm now just going to pull up another articulation. Let's pull up a straight up, and let's go down. I'm going to come to the mixer, and I'm going to come to all. I'm going to search for Serum, shall we? There we go. And I'm going to go to Plucked and Crushed Pluck. Sounds good. Now, of course, I can make any adjustments in the mixer I want. I can solo, mute, pan. Great. One of the things I love about these MIDI modifiers, let's take a kind of a better look at them now, is the ability to change anything, and it becomes, I think, the most versatile ARP modifier I've seen in a plugin. So apart from the usual, yep, cool, let's go 1/16. Changing the inversions is really cool. Let's have a listen. Let's solo it. We can invert that up. If it's too thick, that's okay. I can pull down the density a little bit. And I'll tell you what I might do. I might actually bring down the length. Let's bring it down to about 10. Yeah, so it's a really easy way to create new melodies, even though we do actually have melodies in Scalar 3. I'm going to come back to the Carbon Electro Performance. I want to change the velocity. And whilst we're here, I just want to have a look at, you can humanize, by the way, every individual lane, but I'm going to have a look at the velocity here. And when you turn it down, it keeps everything relative, but just turns all your notes down at once, which is really cool. Okay, I want to have a look at something that we're really happy with and we're going to expand later. But for now, it's a track that enables you just to write your own notes. So I can click inside it. I've got a blank MIDI editor and I can write notes. We're going to really expand upon this in the next few updates that we make over the next few months because we're really looking forward to getting everybody's feedback and improving all this. But this is really cool. First thing that you'll notice in each track is you can see the chords of your main track in the background. You can turn that on and off here. Just pointing out too that you can also see the scale notes as you want in terms of your keyboard view, or if you've got chords that feature notes outside the scale, you can go to chord notes and it'll show you all the scale notes and all the chord notes so you know what's involved in your composition. But for now, I'm going to do something simple. I'm going to say, okay, actually, I just want a bass line. I can see the root note is that, so that's great. I'll just basically grab that note. I'm just going to extend that chord all the way through and I'm going to just copy it nice and easy. Okay, so now I've got my bass line. I'm just going to assign an instrument. Come into the mixer. I'm going to pull up the old Moog Mariana. There's Mariana, spelled it correctly, which is great. And there we go. So now I've got my user track following my chords, which is really cool. The main difference with blue notes and red notes is the red notes don't follow changes in the chord, but everything else does. That'll be addressed in the future, but there's some complications we needed to address. Might just turn it down a little bit. Yeah, it's so nice to be able to just change things too. So I might split this up, and for the second half, I might grab the density instead of being -2. You can see that here. I might say, actually, let's have a few more notes in that. Why don't I just go quantize and bring it to 16th triplets and make the depth, I don't know, 50%. Let's see how we go there. Yeah, cool. I really love the ability to quickly experiment and expand on what you're doing. So, for example, I could say I'm going to drag and copy all this material over to the right-hand side. And I'm curious, what would it all sound like in a different key? I love this master transposition. What would it sound like a tone up? Well, let's just boost it all. Yeah, it's really cool. Now that did everything, right? So no problem. I like that. So I can just grab these chords quite literally, come into the MIDI editor and grab the semitones and say, okay, let's move them up a tone. And now you'll see everything will follow. Here we go. Just another point is that you can export anything you want. Audio, MIDI, your own chord sets. You can import your chord sets too straight into the user folder, which is really, really cool. And you can drag and drop anything you see wherever you want. So if I only want these 2 bits, then I just drag them straight into my Logic and there they are. If I wanted all 4 chords or one section, I can drag that. The other thing to note, of course, is that you can send anything out to any MIDI channel you want. So rather than depending upon Scalar to run and host all your instruments on a single core and a single channel, you can get Scalar to do that, but you can route the MIDI to different channels in your DAW and allow your DAW to spread that CPU load. Of course, we've been doing everything according to 1-bar divisions. So yeah, 14ths, you can work in 8ths, 16ths, and everything just snaps to that division, which is really nice, and all the chord tracks follow. Another thing that makes Scalar 3 really powerful and flexible is the ability to save your presets, which saves your entire state and can work across DAWs and even across users, and it'll even show you when someone's missing a plugin. We've created a bunch of quick templates just to demonstrate what Scalar 3 is capable of, using only the internal sounds so they're compatible for all users. And it's really nice because you can just pull them straight up. And they're great little starting points because they just give you a kind of a snapshot into what is possible. Yeah, some of them are full arrangements, some of them are just starters. So here's EDM starter 130, for example. Yeah, I encourage you to look around. There's so much really cool stuff to explore in there. Thank you so much for watching. That is Scalar 3 and the new features and functions. This video is a great place to start for Scalar 2 users to get you going, but I really highly encourage you to watch some of the other tutorial videos on our channel for just a quick way to get to know Scalar 3 and get creating straight away. We're so excited to see what you come up with. We think it's a really special piece of software and we're really keen to improve it in the future. Thank you very much for watching.